Today I'm tying the Firetail Leach, a pattern I designed for Steelhead on the Great Lakes and Pacific Coast tributaries. This pattern is tied with an orange tip on the tail. For this pattern, I'm going to go into detail in securing the colored tips on the tail and the construction of the fly, as well as the swimming action of the fly in a test tank. This is how the rabbit strip wing is supposed to look like. Trim the hide flush with the fur and trim the thickness of the hide. Trim a small section of the fur at the front of the orange rabbit strip. Next, trim the hide flush with the fur on the black rabbit strip and trim the thickness. Next, apply the 5-minute epoxy to the trim section of the orange rabbit strip tip and place it underneath and overlap the rabbit strip. And place the hackle plier over the two sections until it's cured. Once it's completely cured, trim the whole strip on the taper, starting from the bottom to the top. Keep all the fibers to one side before you start trimming. The hook that I'm using is a Talon Salmon 1X size 2/0. And the thread I'm using to secure the wing at the back of the hook is a Semperfli Nano Silk 6/0 black. Start the thread at the return eye and trim the tag. Wrap a base along the straight portion of the hook even with the point. Whip finish and move it aside. The next thread I'm using is the Semperfli Nano Silk 12/0 white. Start the thread on the return eye and trim the tag. Wrap over the previous wrap and whip finish. Split the thread and wax both sides. Add the blue ice stub loosely. Add the dubbing twister, double over the thread and spin to secure the dubbing. Brush out the dubbing and switch over to a hackle plier. Wrap along the threaded area, pulling the fibers back with your fingers. Secure and trim the excess and brush out the dubbing. Next, prepare the black dyed mallard flank. Flatten the stem and fold the hackle. Trim the tie-in point the same length as the threaded area. Next, tie in the dyed mallard from underneath the hook by the tip and wrap the hackle edge to edge going forward and secure it by the stem. Trim the excess. Whip finish and brush out the fibers. Next, take 3 strands of crinkle flash, fold each strand over the thread so the ends are even, and secure it on the side of the shake. Repeat this step on the other 2 sides. Build up the thread, whip finish, trim the excess length. Next, prepare a heron hackle. Remove the short fibers at the base of the stem and trim the excess. Flatten the stem, switch over to a hackle plier and fold the fibers to one side. Next, tie in the heron hackle by the tip from underneath the hook. Fold the excess back and secure, and leave the rest. Wrap the hackle forward edge to edge and secure by the stem and trim the excess. Build up the thread and whip finish. Next, split the thread, wax both sides, and add a fluorescent red Ice dub loosely. Add the dubbing twister, double over the thread and spin to secure the dubbing. Brush out the dubbing, switch over to a hackle plier and wrap along the threaded area, pulling the fibers back with your fingers and secure. Trim the excess, build up the thread, whip finish, and brush out the dubbing. Next, place the rabbit strip on top of the hook. Measure the proper length and trim the excess. Tie in the strip by the tip and build up the thread, whip finish, and trim. Next, brush out all the fibers forwards towards the eye away from the point. And secure it in place with lead wire to keep them out of the way. Next, take the strip and pull it back firmly over the body and separate the fur even with the black thread. Wrap the black thread around the hide and the bare portion of the hook. A dozen or so wraps, whip finish, trim, and add head cement to the wrap. Remove the lead wire and brush up the fibers away from the eye. Next, I'm going to switch over to a Semperfli Nano Silk 18-aught white. Start the thread in front of the wing and trim the tag. Next, cut a section of the dyed orange fin Racoon strip. Comb out any trapped fibers. Split the thread, wax both sides, insert the fur in between the thread and trim the excess close to the thread. Spread the fur out along the thread. Next, add the dubbing twister, double over the thread and spin to secure the fur and brush out the fibers. Switch over to a hackle plier and wrap the fur in front of the wing with edge-to-edge wrap. Secure by the thread, trim the excess, whip finish, and brush out the fibers. Next, take a section of the dyed black fin Racoon strip, about twice as much as the orange, and comb out the fibers. Split the thread, wax both sides, insert the fur in between the thread, and trim the excess close to the hide. Spread the fur out along the thread. Next, take the dubbing twister, double over the thread, spin to secure the fur, and brush out the fibers. Switch over to a hackle plier and wrap the fur in front of the orange collar with edge-to-edge wraps, pulling the fibers back with your fingers. Secure by the thread, trim the excess, whip finish, and brush out the fibers. Next, take a dyed pink teal hackle, add the hackle plier and fold the hackle. Trim the tip for the tie-in point and secure the hackle underneath the hook. Wrap the hackle in front of the collar with edge-to-edge wraps and secure by the stem. Trim the excess and whip finish. Next, take 2 pieces of junglecock feathers, march them so they're even and flatten the stems. Tie them on each side, left and right, and trim the excess stems. Next, take 2 Cree saddle hackles, even the tips, measure on top of the hook. The hackle tips are even with the end of the black rabbit strip. Remove the hackle fibers at that point and secure by the stem on each side of the hook, left and right. Fold the stems back and secure and trim the rest. Build up the thread around the head, whip finish and trim. Add the red thread over the white, trim the tag, build up the thread, whip finish, trim and add head cement. Finally, once the head is completely dry, add the 5-minute epoxy around the head, nice and even.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe and hit the like button to see more fly tying videos.